Hey. I made a couple things from my video last night. This is the storm track. I traced it out. I combined some layers, like 5 or 6 images here to get like a big image with more detail. It's still not enough, so I took a closer image of this region to just show that there are like bumps in the, and then I put some shallograms around it that have like the opening is kind of like there, like it just goes off. And I just like this one. It's not quite as fitting, but it's still okay. So I put mantle puncture inlet path. So as the doom shape of the vortex storm moves this way, as the vortex storm moves this way, it forms a stable nucleus that becomes observable and frightening and has been called the doom shape in Egyptian mythology or something Egyptian related doom shape. And then it flows into the mantle through just over top the polygon boundary of this layer and into the more just fine-grained, like, I guess, basin-filled material of the polygon. So it gets over the basin's edge of the polygon into the actual material that's filling it. That then it flows through to a puncture point. Some energetic reason, I guess. There must be a reason it went there rather than like here. Maybe just because the storm was here, creating a vortex here, which was actually what punctured it. That's probably what happened, actually, is it was moving this way, creating one of those tangential things that was creating like a downward nova, like it's almost like a volcano in the opposite direction into the mantle to the point where it punctured it, and then there was just free flow from the mantle at that point and into the mantle, which then kind of prevented this like tangential thing going on, but it's still. Then it was the puncture occurred, and then there was just flowing in. So it moved here. I think I kind of put these as potential locations where it kind of like stopped or paused a little bit. Like it got caught up on the material there. And then it like flows in, and while it's doing that, it's starting to put a current this way through here, which is just creating this like wing, kind of like an angel wing or something, a bird wing here. And then it gets to this node where it just kind of, I feel like it just especially puts a current down here at this point, like really allows it to go all the way down. And then it just does this thing, which I think really shows and demonstrates that this is a current that is going to a sink that is like some boundary line between polygons where the energy can sink into. So it goes that way, and then the doom shape has been like changing across time. So I guess it's as it's moving this way, it's still inserting currents into the earth back through here and through here. And I guess once it passes this location, maybe I'll go back up a little. where there's like a cross thing going on. It kind of sits there, I believe, because it just is like dividing something. It's just like over top the boundary. There's probably a polygonal boundary here that maybe goes up this way and here. Something of that nature. So it sits there. Did I just move that? It sits there. And while it's sitting there, it's sending a current between these two polygons this way, which then there's like a nucleus type system here that it causes a vortex around, which then produces the shallogram features and chakras, where it's so intense of a storm here that it actually has no nucleus remaining. Like, it's just debris in the region from just explosions as it's like stripped layers of the material away, and just it's probably actually exactly that, stripped layers, like one after another, in a way where, like, dependent on where the storm was, because once it gets to a certain point, like down here, then it's actually pulling a current with it, I believe. At some point the storm's kind of like pushing a current a little bit, at least a bit, to bring a back current, which maybe is why this is all filled in at that stage. Like, it required a back current to bring some stuff back in after all the debris was maybe more over here. Maybe that happened up here as well, or a back current to kind of fill that region. But then once it's here, it like divides this segment, and so the current that goes up this way just goes here. So it doesn't really need a new pathway. The current from here up just can go this way into this puncture hole. But the current from here down starts to propagate downward towards basically a boundary in the polygons, like a multiple boundaries. This is like a central. It's a node. It's even called a node in literature. Like, it's actually a node along multiple fault lines, because it's a boundary between polygons in essence, that allowed for, because of it being an intersection of these polygons, it allowed for just this like inflow of ether through it, of this storm's energy that's propagating into the earth, like to the core. It goes over this way, bringing just currents towards that node pretty much, and just squeezing this region into this like arrow. I noticed there's an arrow here, like right there, just pointing in the direction of Girnar, because the flows were just being squeezed down this channel basically. And as it's moving, it's also putting currents up here. So initially these currents are going to this side, but then as it gets further down here, it starts to bring these currents to life, which propagate over to these regions, which then causes this sink. Like, this was probably more the boundary, and this was probably just like ways in as it approached the boundary, like weak points. Something of that nature, I'm guessing. Or it just moved the boundary around in a real sense, where it was here and it became more here. That actually makes sense. Like, the inflows here were like flowing over here, producing a boundary. And then these inflows just pushed more material into it, maybe, as they flowed down some actual channel to the core that they're ultimately going to. Like, they're not actually going to this thing, they're just pushing material as they go through it, maybe. So it flows to here and seems to sit here a while, probably because of the connection through here and through here. and then it just keeps going, but instead of going through this, essentially it's causing a wind. It's rotating this way, so it's causing a wind this way, causing this channel outlet. That's just between polygons again. That's just causes spreading as well to give a gap to allow for this region. This is so much better of an explanation than my previous explanation in my Dwarka video. Oh, Lord. Then it's pushing like a boundary. So this is a boundary over here that's just getting forced into being. It may not have been exactly there, but the currents are kind of creating it at least. And because the boundary becomes like solid to a point where it really is the boundary, it then produces this mound here because there's currents in the same way pushing towards the boundary and just causing a pile up of material. It's just like water flowing under here. It would flow into it, push it this way, and then ultimately go this way, but some of it would be pushing just like a mound over here if there's a wall to kind of hold the stuff being pushed. And then here there's a divide in the currents, like the stuff coming this way kind of divides out. Like again, it doesn't have to go through Girnar. It looks like it can just go like out this way and I guess out this way and drain through another channel because it's just water flows kind of thing. Ultimately, that's behind this. It's like a flow like water that's carving this way. So it doesn't really care. It's not like a lightning strike that's like energetically going to the core like through some precise channel. Like it's just kind of draining to the core, but it's ultimately like making precise channels in the process, but it's not so like limited to just those channels that it doesn't have other outlets like water would do, because it's essentially flowing like that and while this energy is flowing. So it causes this mound though, causes a boundary, which then the polygon here again causes another mound, which really leads to this eddy region because of this current coming across this way as well. So let's pull up Google Maps. Just see if there's anything else like this arrow, this wall, little like triangular section here, and then like a square section here. It's just pointing, but it's essentially the direction of the flow, but then it wraps around this boundary because there's energy coming this way. So there's a flow coming this way. Actually, that really reveals like the shape of and why the shapes are as they are. Because there's a flow coming this way, colliding with a flow coming this way, just like squeezing the region, which is creating this like, here's a nova center with a little spiral outward even. Maybe even like that, like a galaxy center. Like there's all sorts of things of that nature here. But it has a boundary where this current is colliding basically here. And then here it maybe it comes over here a bit. It's able to come over here, it looks like. So there's another like triangular boundary to this. So it allows for the triangle to flow in this way. So like this region is pointing generally that way. So basically it's causing a flow of the current this way, which then just is hitting this major outlet. This major outlet of current is just shoving this way to this drainage point that then goes down to a large region like this size and then propagates sideways underneath to connect, probably like through this chakra point even. Maybe it goes kind of this way, follows this path backward, like underneath. But some reason I think it actually goes to like the underneath this shape in a way, which is why like it has boundaries. Like it's like actually energetically draining directly downward along the boundaries in a way that creates like a actual outline of this like thing that Girnar connects through to. Even though it's not really visible here, it's just underneath at a far enough depth. It's so substantial that it actually has this effect. Where here it's still kind of subtle. I mean, it's huge. It's literally I think it's 40 kilometers in diameter, so like, or 60. I think it's 60 kilometers in diameter. See, the last video I said I think it's 40 in radius. Because I measured here and I was like, wait, it's like 30. I thought it was bigger than that, so I thought it was 40, but I think it was actually that it was 60 diameter, and it did measure to approximately here. I still haven't looked back to find the paper. It probably also kind of follows the currents here to create a boundary to kind of hold it more this way a bit. Maybe it even comes like around here and then goes that way. And some really like this eddy created like a pocket, a void where it didn't go through, or just like a dense region, maybe even not a void but a dense region, because there's an eddy here for certain, that this current's flowing this way, so this eddy's flowing this way, and it's just pushing this mound this way. Which is probably why it's kind of triangular, because there's a wall here and then just a current here. But then it just drains through. What else do I got to say? I mean, this mountain's produced in that way. Lordy Lord. Let's see if there's any of those. Yeah, so this is probably where that eddy is. Maybe. Oh, maybe not. Or maybe that's the eddy. And this is Girnar going around the eddy, connecting. Maybe this is the Girnar thing right here. Like right there. Like as it approaches, that maybe that's this thing. So it like threads from this to Girnar, maybe. Just a guess. I don't think this has enough detail and is clear in terms of where it's above. Like I assume it's directly here, but in terms of like where it could be staggered, like it could be a lensing effect where the actual location of the object is off position because of some just lensing that occurs. That would be crazy if gravitational lensing was occurring in here in a way where like all distant redshifted galaxies is caused by gravitational redshift, because gravity causes light to travel in a figure 8 pattern. So maybe like the core of the Earth is really like gravitationally lensing in a way that where it makes it us see a sphere, but it actually is flat. Oh, it would just be kind of like, I think it would be pleasant and nice if the Earth was truly scientifically deduced to be flat in a way where like everything connected to that, where we could kind of just like marvel and laugh at like our lack of like accuracy. Uh, it would be, I think, maybe beneficial in some ways. It probably is that way, and the way we see it already in this more spherical way. But it would be really interesting if, like, this object here, which is the core of the continental body of Africa, or it was, and then it got divided. If somehow this object actually had something to do with being the actual core when we like seismographically somehow, by lensing, I don't know how it could possibly do that. Like make it appear as if it's at the center when it's here. But that would be crazy because ammonites aren't like spheres. Like it's pretty much a big ammonite that just goes around, wraps around here, around, spirals into the center, where it ends over here at the like snake eye shape here of the snake head. Like it's an ammonite, so maybe it's a flat ammonite. I don't know. Maybe the new center of the flat ammonite Earth is over here. Although it really seems to be, if anything, here. This is maybe like the chakra center. Like if Australia Australia has a nucleus here, but its actual like current nucleus is here because the nucleus of the overall system that was great, like Australia is only half of. The nucleus was more there. The center of the mass was more there. And so it caused this spiral out to a new nucleus. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. Where I believe there's like a chakra nucleus that, like, if we look at an ammonite, let's just pull an ammonite up. Ammonites. Let's pull this one up because it's like it's got a chakra point. Maybe this is even a good example. It's got a chakra point, and then it's got like a mass. So I'm thinking this is Australia. Here's the like end of the ammonite, like here. And here is its spray of particles that it's releasing this way from this current that's just flowing through it and then basically spiraling here and then coming out through this channel and just causing more this type of effect. But so like there's a mass like that, and if we look at my Twitter, where's the ammonites of Australia? Here it is. It's not here. There's a mass that if it spirals around to the other side in this video, it shows like a mass like here. So instead of the actual like very chakra point of the ammonite, there's another mass over there. So there's like two of them. So I wonder if I can remember what I was talking about enough to come back to what I was talking about. Oh, Lord. Oh, yeah. I wonder if that's happening in some way here, was I saying? Let's pull up this ammonite. Like here is the chakra, but maybe like this is the mass. So it just has the chakra, maybe. Oh, yeah, that's right. The chakra of the new ammonite earth, maybe. And then maybe the mass is kind of, or at least this region, this ammonite region. And maybe the mass is the protrusion that like extends to Girnar. That was built up, that we see perhaps some sort of energetic imprint of here due to the currents feeding into its boundaries. Maybe that's there, and then maybe it feeds through again to Girnar in a similar way, where it has like a... it has another ammonite layer that comes out of her off staggered. It's not here where the actual center was. It's here where the new nucleus is. So like this is the puncture hole, this is that big polygon, this is that big this thing, big polygon, this thing here, this hexagon, or whatever, this shape of its boundary. It can be both things, where it's both like the this is the mantle puncture hole, this is the hexagon, this is the hexagon, this is Mount Girnar. Leading to a staggering from here to here to here of these big like openings in the layers to channel through a conduit like an ammonite that's staggered, I guess. Let's look at this one. Like if there's another one, it would probably form like off there or something kind of thing. Just keep going off of a path that's, maybe these even are like the other ones, just forming many, I don't know. Just like here, 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 and then this current maybe is pushing them out. The things, the other ammonites that are forming there, they just get formed and then pushed out. So they then become these bubbles that are like within the boundary of the currents. I've referenced this. It's from Diamond Miner something. Sorry, dude. Ivers something. Ivers. I might be mistaken on even the letters, let alone the pronunciation. I just scour YouTube for video of good imagery of these structures that show features that are unique or like different ways of it. So like this, like from his channel as well. This really is one of the main things that even got me going down that path. Oh, I guess I should have just opened ammonites. Was this ammonite? Like, where is it? It's right here. It's right there. When I saw that, I was like, okay, they get big. I didn't know how big they got, but now I see how big they get to the whole planet ammonite. Maybe the Earth is kind of like a spherical one where it spirals around itself to a point where it becomes smooth like a sphere. So like the shallograms that are smooth, maybe they have like like not just a coil like in a single plane, but it's just kind of like a wound ball of yarn. Like it keeps going all planes to create a sphere. Thanks, balls of yarn. As someone who has made balls of yarn, also maybe it starts out in more of a tubular way, and then it spools around it like a coil, and then just over time becomes more spherical. It's just like the way it's able to shape itself. Like if you try to just put a ball of yarn in a continuous, that's probably a good method of practicing how these things can shape themselves. Like, oh, it's not stable if I just keep trying to coil it on this one plane. Like it wants, it's hard to do that. It's easier if it like starts folding over on itself quickly and just wraps into like a ball, like a particle. And then that particle then starts to create that a larger planar thing again, and it just repeats the cycle to a larger ball. That's probably just how it works. Oh my god, just energetically, that's how it works, because that's like the least difficult way for the energy to wrap around itself. Oh. Let's check out Mount Sumeru. That image right there. Hexagon, square, circle with mountains on the edge. Hexagon, square, circle with mountains on the edge. Inner hexagon. Let's just... Oops. So it's got like a base hexagon, maybe, or maybe not. I think it did have a base hexagon, I thought. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or an elevated hexagon. Maybe it's this one. Like over here. And then the triangle of Mount Girnar is elevated. Like, let's pull up Mount Girnar. I need to eat here in a few. Let me just start doing this. Research images, Mount Girnar. Like here's kind of, this shows it's square, like a boundary all the way, and the straight center. I think that's a little too. Here's the triangle at the center with a ring, another hexagon. This one's like got alluvium, so like water flows go this way a lot and this way, so it kind of hides what's going on here. But I suspect this is more hexagonal, and this becomes basalt more here. So I think Mount Girnar kind of formed like this, which is a propagation of a spherical S wave in 2D. Because it's a spiraling current into this channel that then is upwelling like dense material to fill the space. Only dense material can fill the space of a huge void. Okay, I'll be back. Cool.